is Julia. Welcome back to my channel if you are a subscriber, and if you are new here, nice to meet you. I make videos about travel, adventure, packing, hiking, tips, all of that. And most importantly, I talk about living a good story. So if you're interested in that, I hope you will hit the subscribe button below. Today's video is going to be the second video in my Camino series, and we are going to be tackling the question of how much does it cost to walk the Camino de Santiago, specifically the French way. Most information on the internet says it costs about $1,000 a month to walk the Camino. And most people take about 30 to 35 days to walk the French way, which is the most classic route, and that is the route we're going to be focusing on today. Now, there are definitely ways to make the Camino really cheap and to make it really expensive, but I am going to go out on a limb and say, regardless, it's probably going to cost you more than $1,000. And let's break that down. So let's start with flights. So obviously travel is crazy right now and everything's a little different than normal. You're probably planning to go in at least 2021 or later if you're watching this in the future. I would say the best way to keep your flight cheap is to fly into a major airport. I'm talking about Madrid, Barcelona, or Paris. There are a lot closer airports like Balboa and San Sebastian, and there are other closer airports that the internet will recommend that you fly into, but that's gonna cost like double, triple the price. So I would recommend that you fly into one of those three major airports and then take a train or a bus or a series of trains and buses that will cost more like 10, 20, 30 euros and get there that way. The website that I recommend most for booking a cheap flight is called justfly.com. I've truly never found another website in my life that shows cheaper flights and better deals. They're definitely gonna show you like the ratchet flights where you have like several layovers and it's kind of crazy hours, but if that's what you're looking for to make the flight as cheap as possible, that's what you're gonna wanna do. If you live in the United States, I have found that flying through Newark in New Jersey always has the cheapest deals. When I flew to Spain, I bought a one-way ticket to Newark, and then I bought a separate ticket to Spain from Newark. That's a little bit of a gamble to have two different tickets because if something goes wrong, the other airline can't help you because it's not their fault. So I'm not necessarily recommending it, but that is what I did, and that's something I've done in the past to get to places cheaper. Another way to make your flight free is to buy it with credit card points. If you don't already have a travel credit card and you're interested in getting one in advance and earning points, one that I would really recommend is the United Airlines United Explorer card. It has no annual fee the first year, so it's free to sign up, and if you spend $3,000 in the first 3 months, so that's $1,000 a month, that's like a normal person's budget, you will then get 60,000 bonus points, and that should be enough to get to Spain. That's actually exactly what I did, and I went for free. Please note though, with that card, it does have a $95 annual fee after 1 year. However, I called and asked if I could cancel and they gave me my money back. So maybe they'll do that for you too. So those are some suggestions to get you to Spain cheaper. Obviously, we all have different preferences of how we like to travel, and you can decide how expensive you want to make it. All right, now that we've made it to the trailhead at Saint Jean in France, we're going to start walking to Santiago, and from there, our main expenses are really going to be sleeping, lodging, and eating. Let's break this down and let's start with lodging. So there are three different kinds of albergues that you will run into on the Camino. There is the municipal, the private, and the religious. So starting with municipal, this is the main one that you're probably gonna wanna stay at. These are basically public ones. They are much bigger. They are gonna be the cheapest option, and they're probably gonna run an average of 10 euros. Sometimes they will be cheaper, like 5 euros, and you'll be able to tell because they won't even have sheets or blankets or anything. And sometimes they can be about 15 euros, but I would say 10 euros is an average dollar amount to kind of plan for. The upside to these, of course, is it is cheaper and you have more opportunities to make friends because you're gonna be around a lot of people, and if you're walking, your friends are probably gonna wanna stay there. The downside to these is, of course, there's just a ton of people. You might run into bed bugs, there's definitely gonna be snoring, and there might be a long line for the bathroom, it might be gross, you just never know. Some of them are lovely, the one in Roncesvalles is lovely, so it really just depends. But you can pop your head in there when you get there, or you can look on the app and decide if it's a place that you want to stay. The next albergue is the private albergue, and they're gonna be a lot smaller, potentially a little bit more expensive, and a big difference is that they will take reservations. The municipal ones usually don't. You just have to get there and get in line, first come, first serve. But the private ones, you can call ahead if you want. You can even call the day before. Sometimes I did that, but usually not, because you never know kind of where you're gonna wanna stop walking. These are gonna be a little bit more. These could be anywhere from 10 to 50 euros. It really just depends. They're gonna have dorm rooms where you're with more people, and that'll keep the price down around 10, 15. But you'll have the opportunity to get your own room. And of course, the more of your own room that you have, the more you're gonna pay. So if that's something that you wanna have every night, then you can expect to pay closer to like 20 to 50 euros a night, maybe even more depending on where you are. But if you are committed to being in a dorm room and don't care how many people are in there, then you can expect to pay around 10 to 15. The last kind of albergue that I mentioned is the religious, and this really is just like the municipal, except that they're run by a monastery or a church, and they have maybe stricter rules sometimes about what can go on there, but it's really about the same price point and about the same setup as the municipal. Another word that you're probably gonna run into on the Camino is the word donativo, which means donation, and a lot of the municipal and sometimes religious albergues run on donations. So there isn't actually a set price that you have to pay. You just pay what you can or what you think is fair based off of the experience that you had. Whenever I ran into this, I usually paid about 10 euros. So the average amount of money if you're planning on staying in the cheaper albergues would be 10 euros a night. If you want to have a more conservative, really well padded budget, I would say 15 euros average, just to make sure you don't run out of money. And if you're planning on staying in nicer places and you want your own room, I would plan for about an average of 50 euros. And of course, you can obviously stay in a hotel or an Airbnb if you want. That's just gonna get more complicated with booking. You'll probably have to book online ahead of time, or they might not have space available. If you're really trying to stay at a hotel every night, you might wanna plan all of it in advance, which really isn't like the spirit of the Camino. But of course you can do that if you want, and it's gonna be, you're gonna be looking at more like 100 euros a night if you're staying in hotels. Now let's talk about food. So just like with lodging, there's gonna be different options of how you can eat, and they're going to affect the price. So the cheapest way that you can eat is obviously to go to the grocery store and cook. A lot of the albergues that you'll run into will have a kitchen, and you can cook there. Of course, it's a shared space, so it's gonna be a little more complicated. You're gonna have to kind of wait your turn. And also, you're gonna be really tired, so you probably won't wanna do this every day. One of my regrets on the Camino is I wish I had cooked more, because I do think I would have saved a lot more money, but we were honestly just so tired every night that we just didn't want to. The next most typical thing you're gonna see is a pilgrim dinner, and these are so much fun. They are usually about 10 euros. That's the most normal price that you can expect. And this will be put on by an albergue or a local bar or restaurant. It's usually just like a set price, like 10 euro, and you'll get a glass of wine or a glass of water, usually both. You'll get a basket of bread to share with your friends, and then you'll get a 2-course meal. And the courses are basically like 2 dinners. Like the first is usually pasta or soup, and the second one is usually like some sort of meat and french fries or potatoes or something like that. So you really get like 2 dinners, which I promise you you're gonna want both of them. And then you also get dessert. So you get all of that food for 10 euros, which is a lot of food. And so we did that a lot. I loved doing them, especially at the smaller albergues. I always signed up for the pilgrim dinners, because dinner is the best part of the Camino every night, just sitting around a table, talking to people, eating the local food. So if I was in a smaller albergue, I knew that if I signed up for the dinner, I would get to have like an hour to 2 hour fun experience chatting with people from all over the world and eating and drinking wine, and that was always my idea of a great time. So I always signed up for those. A lot of the regular restaurants will have pilgrim dinners to accommodate the people walking on the Camino coming through town, but you'll also just come across regular restaurants with regular menus, and you can obviously order whatever you want. That's just gonna add up to be more money. You could expect to pay more like 20 euros if you're just ordering off a regular menu. Then when it comes to breakfast, again, a lot of albergues have breakfast. They'll tag it on for free sometimes, or it'll be like 2 or 3 euro, or sometimes it's donativo and you just throw some money in. Just note though, if an albergue is offering you breakfast, it's probably not like pancakes and eggs and bacon. It's probably toast and coffee and maybe fruit, or like maybe a cookie. So oftentimes I would sign up for that just so I could get coffee, and then I would supplement. I would go to the grocery store and get like a banana or a yogurt or something. Or we would just go to a coffee shop and get a latte or something, or a cafe con leche. and have breakfast there. So again, just like dinner, there are a variety of options to make it cheap or expensive. I would say on average, you could expect to spend like €1 to €5 on breakfast, just kind of depending what you're doing and how hungry you get. You're also probably gonna want at least one nice coffee a day. Even if you have coffee included at the albergue, you're probably gonna wanna stop. Like 3-5 miles in, we would always stop and have a coffee break. That's super normal, and you'll probably want like cafe con leche, and that's gonna run like around €2-ish, maybe more depending on where you are. You might end up wanting 2 coffees a day. If you're like me, you're gonna want a Coke every single afternoon. It's like 3 o'clock was Coke time. So you have to factor that into the budget. And then when it comes to lunch, you'll be passing through towns all day long, so you'll have the opportunity to stop at a restaurant, eat lunch if you want. And this could probably be an average of like €8 to eat lunch, but you also could buy food in the morning or the day before and plan to eat it while you're walking. A lot of times, Kayla and I would go to the grocery store and we would get meat and cheese and bread and maybe a chocolate bar, and we would eat that while we were walking. So that's gonna be cheaper oftentimes than going to lunch, but sometimes stopping for lunch is more fun, or you were too lazy to get food the day before, so it just depends what you wanna do. Okay, so how much is all this gonna add up to? So let's say on average it's gonna cost €10 to sleep each night. Let's say we spend an average of €5 on breakfast. Let's say we spend an average of €2 on a coffee, plus another 2 on a Coke, plus 8 on lunch, plus 10 on dinner. That is gonna run us to €37 a day. And I'm gonna round that up to 40 to just be more conservative. So for this budget, which I find pretty reasonable, it's gonna get you kind of the bare minimum lodging, it's gonna get you pretty decent food, and it's gonna get you a nice coffee and a Coke each day. So let's times that by 30 days, and that is $1,200. If you walk it in 35 days, that is $1,400. So let's say conservatively, it's for food and lodging, it's gonna cost you anywhere from $1,200 to $1,400 to walk the Camino. But that is really not all, because that's not including the final category that I mentioned, and that is the unexpected other things. Things that might fall in that category are muscle cream, Band-Aids, ibuprofen, a knee brace. I bought a knee brace for €60. I bought 2 of them. Maybe you want to buy souvenirs. Maybe you need to go to the doctor. Maybe you get a beer every night. Maybe you want to go out. Maybe you want to do some kind of sightseeing activity and it costs some money. I would tack on several hundred other dollars for the unexpected other, just in case. If you don't spend the money, you can just keep it in the end, but you really never know what's going to happen, and you don't want to go over there and not have money for an emergency. The way that I live my life and the way I did the Camino was I tried to be really reasonable. I tried to spend as little money as possible, but I didn't allow it to affect my experience. So I was very reasonable with the way I spent money. I didn't really stress about it or like pinch pennies or anything, but I wasn't being lavish and over the top. That's really how I live my life in general, and that's how I would recommend you do the Camino. Unless money really is tight for you and you absolutely can't go without keeping like a very tight budget, then you're gonna wanna pay attention to all those little things. Also, to add on to your budget, you might wanna travel afterwards. For me, I went to Portugal for 4 or 5 days after, so you might wanna factor in what that's gonna cost you as well. So my calculator says $1,700 is a nice friendly budget to do the Camino. You probably won't end up spending all of that depending on your spending behavior, but it would be nice to come home with some of that money still in your bank account. That is pretty much all I have for you. I hope this video was helpful in getting a realistic idea of how much money you need to save to go on the Camino. If you have any comments or questions, make sure to comment them down below. I typically respond to all of the comments. And if you want to DM me on Instagram, you can do that too. My handle is @JuliaMarie_Rob, and I will link that down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon. Bye.